What made you not want to have kids? When I realized that having a kid would mean that kid would have me as a parent. I'm 20, 80, not convinced I want kids. Lack of freedom, especially to travel, constantly worrying about someone else being responsible for them, the state of the world, my own mental health stuff that can be genetic, knowing pregnancy is incredibly dangerous, having 4 friends very recently have their first children, and seeing them miserable, the idea of forever being a mom. It's all overwhelming, plus I see kids every day with behavioral and mental health problems. I kinda just don't want to risk that being my kid. I'm broke and I hate noise. This simple response really sums it up. Raised my siblings. I'm done. Ugh. Teaching them to read, acting as a lifeguard anytime we were around water, trying to patch their wounds or reassure them school isn't so scary. My brother is dyslexic and my sister has a learning disability. I taught them both to write their names and would always help them with homework before working on my own. I don't recall my parents being anywhere nearby in 95s of my childhood memories. I love kids, but the stress of raising kids as a kid has deterred me from ever even considering that sort of responsibility again. Being parentified is high on the list of causes for people not wanting children of their own. Hope you're okay? This is my friend. Her mom went from relationship to relationship, having lots of babies along the way, and my friend, being the eldest, spent much of her middle school and high school years raising them. She has zero regrets about not having any children of her own. Yep, my little brother is 10 years younger than us, and that's all I needed to know. I don't have the time, energy, or motivation to do that again. Yep. I started babysitting my 3 siblings when I was 10. My parents separated when I was 14, so guess who was responsible for cooking, cleaning and laundry, and wasn't allowed to participate in after-school activities because she had to be home to look after her sibling, and got in trouble when her siblings didn't do their chores, or left the house without telling her, and who got kicked out of the house when she graduated high school because she suddenly wasn't helping out enough around the house. This had absolutely nothing to do with the fact that child support payments for her stopped at the same time, and whose piano was sold because Mom needed it to pay bills, and who has now broken off contract with all family members, save one, because of how she was treated. Cats in the cradle, y'all. I had a child born with Duchenne muscular dystrophy. I felt incredibly guilty for bringing such a lovely child into this world with so much difficulty he faced. After he passed away, I never wanted to bring another child into this cruel world. My brother's got Duchenne and autism simultaneously. The autism is a blessing in disguise, as I don't think he spends much time depressed about his muscle condition. It's still tough. I've been in a level 4 NICU since August with my newborn son. Fortunately, there is a light at the end of our tunnel, but the shit I've seen over the past few months has been truly heartbreaking. I honestly don't know how some of these families are going to make it when it comes time to go home. I'm sorry for your loss, and I totally get why you wouldn't want to have another child. I'm so sorry for your loss. Sending hugs. To be honest, I'm too lazy to be a parent. Plus, I'm terrified of the idea of pregnancy and labor. We need more people like you who admit they are too lazy to have kids. As someone who was raised by someone who was too lazy to raise a kid, it's really not fun. Saying this coochie is a one-way street. Edit. Proud that my most updated post is about my coochie. My parents, they weren't good examples to learn from. I tell people that I spent my childhood raising 2 kids I called mom and dad, and then I never got to be young because I spent my 20s working off the fact that I didn't have a childhood. Why would I want kids? My father had a terrible childhood because of abusive parents, and he still suffers because of that today. However, he didn't pass it on to me. He has been such a great father to me, despite everything his parents put him through. Not saying that you should have kids, just want you to know that your parents do not define you, and that you are not them. Honestly, no idea. Just never envisioned a future with children. The economy and financial instability. Same reason for me. Also the possibility of my vagina tearing into my asshole and creating one giant Vegas hole. Edit. According to responses, it can be stapled, stitched back together, but the anal sphincter doesn't feel the same. Just never felt that maternal urge, and it's cruel wrong to have them unless you actually want them. BS is validating cause everyone J know has baby fever and all that, and I just don't get it. seeing them in the wild. In high school, we had to do mandatory volunteer work our last quarter in senior year in order to graduate. I did mine at a head start in my city. I was helping in the preschool one day when a kid named Shane rubbed peanut butter on my black Swede Pumas, spat in my face and ran away. Thankfully, one of the teachers saw it happen and saw my reaction, so she took him out of the room before I fucking murdered him. Yay, I am a teacher, but in A's. I like teenagers, despite their bad haircuts, tracksuits, bad music, and drama. But they can form a coherent sentence and be fun at times. Still, I like to go home and not deal with any of that. But seeing young kids on public transport, once a kid was yelling ding-dong each time we passed a house with tower-like structure. It was downtown Prague. At traffic lights, he went bling-bling. I'm not built to deal with that. My wife is bipolar, and I have recurring depressions. We figured adding kids to the mix wouldn't be fair to anyone. Edit. I'm keeping the hyphen since I firmly believe my wife has the ability to be on both the North and the South Pole. Not at the same time, obviously. Even medicated and in therapy, I can get mean when I'm in a mood. My mom is the same way. Some people shouldn't be parents, and I think it's great that folks are realizing this, instead of popping them out and winging it like most of our parents did. That is extremely responsible of you both. Kudos. I have terrible panic attacks and oct. There's a strong genetic component, so watching a kid suffer like I did is just unbearable to consider. Ooh, I'm pretty sure my father was an undiagnosed bipolar. He'd go into full-blown rages and rants at the drop of a hat, and the things he would say were just horrible. I wouldn't speak to my worst enemy the way he did to us. Good for you for recognizing that. Edit. Maybe it wasn't bipolar, who knows? He's long gone, and I'm no expert. Either way, something was terribly wrong. Thank you for all the upvoting. Giving birth. I wouldn't be opposed to being a mom, but I 100 don't want to give birth. I also don't want to hear about anyone's childbirth experience. I'm in no way going to be excited to hear about the pain, mess, chaos that you went through in delivery room, just because I have a vagina. I like having my free time and don't want to ruin it. Honestly, parents, they make their lives sound like hell, but then always top it with, oh, but it's the best thing ever, and so worth it. Doesn't sound like it to me, lol. The thought of just being pregnant is terrifying also. You have to dedicate your entire life to them. Yes, seeing what pregnancy does to your body is absolutely fucking terrifying. When I became a nurse and had to study giving birth scared me shitless. The kid's head could literally rip the perineum, space between vagina and anus, so doctors intentionally cut it instead and sew it back on. Not only are you sore from pushing out a baby that you've been carrying for months, now you got a stitched up perineum too. That combined with my aunt giving birth to the most frustrating pair of twins, I just don't. If you'll want to get pregnant and have kids, I'm happy for you. But it's gonna be a no for me. Edit, spelling edit. Guys, I'm sorry I didn't include it because the question is what made you not want to have kids. And that's what sealed the deal for me. But episiotomies aren't routine now. It's a case-to-case basis and is only done if a birth complication necessitates it. Hope I cleared it up. Why people aren't terrified of pregnancy. To me, the idea of carrying a growing living being in my belly seems like a nightmare. I have no desire. I like sleep. I like money. I like having a clean house at all times. I like my body. I like my freedom. If I can't afford a house, what makes you think I can afford a child? The economy is a dumpster fire. Thank you for being honest. Kids are fucking expensive, and really it shouldn't come down to economics. But in this day and age it does. Edit. Wow. Over 1,000 upvotes. Thanks all. I probably sounded aggressive a little, but however much some want children these days, you have to put the money into the equation, and trust me, however much personally you might want a child, the literal cost can cause a lot of pain, anxiety and breakups, and nobody wants that, especially for the child. I am quite fond of sleep, flexibility and money, and spontaneity. Of all people, it was Seth Rogen who finally put this together for me. I don't know anyone who gets as much happiness out of their kids as we get out of our non-kids, Rogan told Stern. Like we're effing psyched all the time. We're laying in bed on Saturday mornings, smoking weed, watching movies naked. If we had kids, we could not be in doing this. Stern pointed out that when you're a parent, the kids are the priority, to which Rogan responded, "I don't want that. That does not sound fun to me. I get 8 hours of sleep most nights, and I travel multiple times per year. There's no way I'm ever giving that up to raise children." My family ask me and my wife about this all the time. The best way I've found to explain it is to ask them why they don't own horses. They're impractical, expensive, require constant attention. I'd probably have to relocate. Why would I want one in the first place, etc. The exact same arguments apply. Lol, as someone with horses, but zero desire to have kids. I gotta say, I totally agree. But even horses are 10,000x less demanding of attention than kids. I could leave my horses unattended for days at a time, and they'd probably be thrilled. Try that with a child under 16, and it's apparently frowned upon. Kids. I have kids and I can't stand other kids. I also accept people can't stand mine. Kids and pregnancy. I always wanted to be a mum. I love kids, and I had a wonderful childhood, and I'm still close with my parents. But my sis had kids and starting from the first pregnancy. As much as I adore my nephews, I began to feel like maybe that's not for me after all. Don't get me wrong. I know I'd be a great mum because I had awesome examples growing up, but I also just can't imagine giving up all this freedom to do and be what I want to. I know I'd gain something amazing too, but at 35, I just can't imagine sacrificing the life I had. I am so content and happy right now. I feel like most child-free women kind of grew into that very early. I was still dreaming of motherhood when I was in my late 20s. The whole, "you'll change your mind when you're older" adage was true, I guess, just not the way it's usually meant. I hate interruptions, inconveniences, and misunderstandings with a passion. I can't get pregnant and no, I'm not ready to be a parent yet. Can't be a good influence for a young one if I'm still occasionally fucking up with drugs, self-harming, and not doing well. That stuff emotionally transfers to the kid and isn't conducive to a healthy environment for growth. Gestures around wildly. This is it. Frankly, it is very hard for me to be alive, working constantly, overwhelmed by chores, trying to squeeze some time and money away for the brief times I can enjoy myself. If I had kids, I'd go from being middle class to living like I was in poverty. I remember both my parents working all the time, and I was an only child, and I remember being lonely most of my childhood, so I wouldn't really wish that on another kid. And then I think how much less I could provide for a kid than my parents provided for me. Then they'd grow up and have to work a job they probably hated to try to make ends meet, with even worse climate disaster on the horizon. I just can't do it to another living being, frankly. It would feel selfish. Lio, I can visualize this vividly. We got pregnant right around 9/11, which was the 21st century introducing itself to the world. I am so happy to have a child who is now an adult and doing well. As I look back on the 2 decades of events, I do not think I would have made the same decision to have a child now. As a kid, I was promised jetpacks, space colonies, and more peace, not the proliferation of misinformation, war, injustice, and socioeconomic disparity. Idiocracy was supposed to be a comedic warning, not a playbook. Well, there was that time my parents slighted me when I was like 10, and I demanded an explanation, and they said, "When you have kids of your own, you'll understand." That wasn't a good enough explanation, so I said, "Well, I'm not having kids, so explain it to me now." They then said, "Oh, you'll change your mind someday. You don't have a choice in the matter," which triggered my spiteful side. There's also the fact that my parents were complete pieces of shit, and I grew up poor. I'm never going to put another life through what I went through. It's fucking cruel. Plus, with our crony, capitalist society, I am barely able to take of my own self. Why would I ever want to raise kids in a world I can't afford and barely understand? Told her, I refuse to make the same mistakes my fuck-headed waste of life egg and sperm donors made and got a vasectomy to prove it. Too risky. Nothing is guaranteed that you'll have a healthy baby. The child could be severely disabled and you'll have to be their caretaker for life. They could have mental health issues. They could be a weeb living in your basement forever. They could be completely soulless and evil. I'm not prepared to handle that. Also, sleep is good. Can barely look after myself, let alone another person. Don't want to pass my mental health issues. The world needs less people, not more. I would make a shitty parent. People always ask me, what if I change my mind about not wanting kids? It's strange to me that they don't often consider the implications of them changing their minds about having one. Consider that the success rate of reversing a vasectomy is between 80-90s. The success rate of legally reversing having a kid sits closer to 0. My own abusive childhood, state of the world, selfishness, take your pick. I like my freedom. Now I can live my life on my terms and am not held back by anything. My resources, time, money, food, etc., are all mine, and I genuinely don't want to share them with a little human for the rest of my life. And it probably wouldn't be sharing because they'd get first dibs on everything. I'm selfish with my life, and because of that, I believe that when you don't want kids, they're a burden. People tell me that I'll be a horrible mother for thinking that. I'll be a horrible mother to children that will never exist. So my punishment should be having said kid and loving it, even though I don't want to. And because I know that I don't have or won't make the time, energy, patience, or willpower to do that, I'm not having a kid I'll resent, cause I'll hate them and everything I have to do for them. I really don't see the point of bringing a human to this world that you have to lug around like dead weight. But making this decision makes me immature. Even babysitting annoys me. There, I said it. I heard a Bill Burr edit. Nope, it was Neil Brennan. Bit recently talking about climate change and kids. Loosely paraphrased. Imagine you're at a high school party, trapped in the living room, packed in like sardine. You can't move at all. The roof is on fire, there's water flooding into the basement, and the cops are on the way to arrest everyone. You turn your head to look at your friend and say, "We should invite Kevin?" And say, "We should invite Kevin."